Welcome. So, the great philosopher Synesius of Cyrene once said that dreams are our personal oracle. Now, as the gateway to the unconscious, dreams allow us to tap into these deeply buried content that we might not normally have access to. Now, our dreams can actually be programmed to help provide us with answers. And if we can learn how to re enter our dreams, our past dreams, we can actually empower ourselves to make changes in our lives. So while dream dictionaries are extremely popular, you have a greater insight into your own dream interpretation than you have ever imagined. And as long as you begin to understand your own personal dream symbology. So, we're going to be talking about all of this and more in tonight's episode. So, welcome to those who are here. I'm Aislin, and this is Ask Aislin. So, tonight we're talking all about dreams. And if you are here with me live, saying hi to those who are joining, you can leave any questions or comments in the feed. I'm going to do a Q&A at the end, but I'll also periodically check the feed here. If you are enjoying the video, go ahead and leave a heart or a thumbs up at any point, and that just helps us get the video into the feed of more people. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. So I am going to talk about dreams, a lot of different aspects of dreams tonight. I have always had a fascination with dreams, even when I was a little kid. So in fact, my name Aislin means dream. It actually translates to the word dream. I kept dream journals as a teenager. I always had my dream dictionaries. I even wrote a paper on precognitive dreaming when I was in grad school. So this is a topic that's always been very dear to my heart. So we're going to start by talking about some scientific theories as well as some more psychological theories of dreams. We're going to talk about how dreams relate to witches and the different things that we can do to either expand our dreamscapes or to what to do if we're having a dream drought. For example, when we aren't dreaming or can't remember them. So let's start with a few dream theories. And these theories fall into several different categories. And what you'll probably find, this is similar to many other topics, is that the theories, there's probably never going to be one theory that will fit everything. So it's probably more like a combination of these things. And you'll see that as we go on. So the first theory is scientific. The scientific theory says that dreams are information. Our brain is processing information while we are sleeping, and it is doing this in order to store and consolidate memories, to process input that has come in from the day, to make sense of the events of the day. And in that respect, dreams from this point of view are simply just a side effect of neural activity during the night. So you may have a similar experience as me. If you are somebody who has had to learn something new, you will sometimes find that if you actually study that thing for a great amount of time, it will start to bleed its way into your dreams. So a few years ago, I had to help a student with calculus. I teach very high math, but I don't teach calculus. So I actually had to relearn my calculus from college. And what I found is after those days of studying the calculus, I started dreaming about calculus. I'd be solving the calculus problems in my sleep. So this is our way. This is one way that we can see our dreams are actually helping us rehearse information and consolidate it and put it into our long-term memory. So this will be information that we can access later. Now, from another perspective, dreams can be thought of as the road to the unconscious. So in fact, Sigmund Freud, who was the creator of psychodynamic theory, psychoanalytical theory, he said dreams were the royal road to the unconscious. He believed that there was an unconscious conflict within us that our conscious mind was not prepared to handle, and that dreams were a way to sneak information through the filter of the ego. So the ego will block us from having access to information that would be potentially concerning to us or conflicting to us. Now, there's probably some truth to both of these theories. So, like I said, I know for a fact I was rehearsing that calculus in my mind during my dreams, but I also know that my dreams are showing me internal conflicts that I might have. So I think there's probably truth to both of these theories, and that not one or the other is the whole picture. Dreams potentially are a combination of our day residue, working through information processing during sleep, but also unconscious conflicts. And some dreams will be just one of these things. So, for example, that calculus dream was probably just information processing. But a dream that is more symbolic might have some day residue in it as well. So, there may be aspects that don't always make sense, and it's helpful for us to look at them from different perspectives rather than just looking at it from one. So this can make some dreams quite bizarre when they begin to serve multiple functions at one time. So let's talk about other types of dreams. So those are kind of our two main dream theories, but as witches, we know that there are other types of dreams too. They don't have to just be about unconscious conflicts or information processing. So one type of dream is called the mirror dream, and this is not, if you Google this, you're just going to find symbology of mirrors and dreams. But the mirror dream is actually a dream that shows us, it's basically our creative center within us, is showing us what it thinks about the plans of the ego. So the ego is the part of you that's out here kind of controlling things, operating, letting things through or not through the unconscious mind. And so if there's something that you're doing or not doing, during a mirror dream, you may actually see yourself either engaged or not engaged in that thing, and you might see that outcome happening. So that would be a mirror dream. It's usually going to reflect something that is going on in real life, but perhaps in a different way. So you're going to know it's a mirror dream if you notice, you recognize things from your real life, and it's a situation you're actually in right now, or it's one that you're debating about being in right now. Now, perhaps it might also reveal to us an unanticipated outcome of something that we are doing, but that is for us to figure out, right? So, but the one key to know if you're looking at a mirror dream is when you start to see things that are actually playing out from your real life, but perhaps from a different perspective. In a symbolic dream is usually quite vivid. And it is often very memorable, and the imagery will stick with you. It can be bizarre, it might not be, but it could be quite bizarre. Now, generally, in a symbolic dream, our unconscious is trying to talk to us. The unconscious mind cannot speak in words the way that the conscious mind can. If it wants to get a message to us, it's going to have to do it in a different way, and most of the time that is through symbols. Now, recurring symbols that happen in several different dreams over a sequence of time are usually something that you really want to pay attention to, because your unconscious is tapping you on the shoulder and telling you, hey, look at this symbol and try to figure out what it means. Now, here's where I say, don't just grab the dream dictionary and don't have the first thing you do be to Google, what does a dog mean in dreams? Or what does blank mean in dreams? To me, this is the greatest disservice that you could possibly do for your own dream interpretation. I'm going to talk a little bit about that more later, about why I think you should throw out your dream dictionary. But for now, let's talk about experiential dreams. Now, experiential dreams will transport you to another place. Now, that other place might be interdimensional. Now, you're not going to find in the scientific theories, you're not going to find anything about this. And those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I am a science teacher and a math teacher, but I'm also a witch. And so I believe there's a marriage between science and magic that just simply the scientific community has not caught up to yet. But I do think that there is a possibility that we do very much travel to different realms during our dreams, and that's one type of dream. So there may be interdimensional travel. You might be able to travel to the ancestral realm. For example, if you dream of someone who has died, perhaps someone that you knew in this life who died, or someone from a distant past, an ancestor from a distant past, you are likely in the ancestral realm, or at least stepping through one part of it. Now, another place, another realm that you could visit during a dream is perhaps the realm of gods. So if anybody has ever had a dream of a god or a goddess who has come to them and spoken to them, whether physically pictured as that god or goddess, or through, like, for example, an animal. Sometimes gods and goddesses will appear as animals. But if you have ever had a dream like that where you feel that deity has spoken to you, then that is likely a dream that has you've made it into the realm of the gods. Um, in fact, there is a temple, and I can't remember where it is, but it is a temple to the goddess Isis. And it says, the inscription, when it is translated correctly, it says, "No one will enter this temple except those who were invited by the goddess through their dreams." So there was beliefs even long ago that the gods could speak to us through our dreams. And not only that, they would, when they spoke to us, they could invite us to certain places or to union with them. So as witches, I think these types of dreams are very, very interesting. Now, a fourth type of dream is the precognitive dream. I've always been very fascinated with the precognitive dream. Now, Carl Jung, who is the godfather of shadow work, which we talk a lot about in this group, he believed that those other three types of dreams were possible, but he struggled for a very long time during his career to wrap his mind around the idea of the precognitive dream. To him, for much of the time, even as metaphysical as he was, he did not believe these types of dreams were possible. Now, he had a patient who had come to him at one point and was telling him about a dream that the man had, and the man said he had a dream that would recur where he was shot on a staircase. And so they went through sequences of analysis with this dream. They looked at it from different perspectives. They analyzed the symbology of it. And in the end, they decided there was some kind of an unconscious conflict that he was trying to work through. Sadly, the man was then shot later on a staircase and was killed. And after that, it shook Carl Jung up to the point that he said from then on, one should never, ever, ever negate the possibility that a dream is precognitive. So this is really an important idea for us to think about. It doesn't mean that all dreams are predictive, but some of them might be. Now, one way that you can really analyze a dream to discover whether it's precognitive or predictive is to look at the landscape of that dream. If that dream looks very much like your real life, if there are parts of it that are identical, and I'm going to give an example in a second to kind of you'll see how this dream would have been thought of as precognitive. If those items from that dream are identical to your real life, there is a chance that your dream is precognitive. The dreams that are usually not precognitive are the ones that are full of symbols, full of strange things, full of, for example, you're driving in a car, but it's not your car. You are standing there with your mom, but it's not your mom. Those kinds of dreams typically are not as precognitive as the ones like this, where you're standing and it is your mom and you're talking to her in your house and that is your car and it looks identical to your real life. Those are often precognitive dreams. So one of the things that you want to ask yourself when you're trying to interpret a dream is whether or not there is a chance that this thing could happen in real life. So I'm going to give a story here. And to me, I got chills when I heard this story personally. Because it's a great story. So I took a dream working class not long ago from a man named Robert Moss. He's an incredible teacher. And he tells a story about his friend who called him up at like 3 a.m. one night, and she was in a panic about a dream that she had had. So she had a dream about driving in a car, and all of a sudden there were lights coming at her, and there was a collision, and she drove off of a bridge. So she's in a panic and she calls him up in the middle of the night and he's trying to calm her down. And then he takes her through what's called the lightning dream technique. And this technique is a series of questions that the person, your guide, will ask you in order to help you gain access into the depths of this dream. So he starts asking her all of these questions. And one of the things that they realize is that the car that she was driving in was her red car to the T. She could see all the details. And she didn't really recognize the place where it was, but the fact that the car looked just like her car gave them this idea that perhaps the dream was precognitive. So he told her that you should just watch, okay? So when you're driving, if you feel that you come to an intersection like you did in this dream before you went onto the bridge, just be cautious. So time passes, and she honestly kind of forgot about it. And one day she's driving in her red car, and she comes to this intersection. There's this bridge in front of her, and all of a sudden she has this feeling of, I've seen this before. So this is oftentimes our deja vu is a sign that we have tapped into this perhaps in a dream. And so she felt this sense of deja vu, and so she paused and she waited, and there was a light there and it changed, and the other cars went, and she waited. Well, up ahead on the bridge, a car careened out of control and crashed through the side of the bridge. If she had gone, she would have been there and probably would have probably crashed off the bridge as well. So this is why we don't discount the precognitive dreams, but we also don't think of every dream as being precognitive. So we definitely want to look at what happened in the dream, and is it possible that something like it could happen? Okay, so the one thing too we want to consider is that there are multiple future timelines, and depending on the different choices that we make, we may veer off onto different ones. So you are potentially precognitively dreaming all of the time, but you're dreaming about future landscapes and future situations that never happen. But every once in a while, you dream about one that does. That is where some feelings of deja vu can come from. So you just want to pay attention. Like, I'm not telling any of this to panic people about, not all dreams are precognitive. In fact, most aren't. But when you do have a dream where there is a lot of reality in it, in fact, everything looks like to a T, and it's something that you could imagine happening, it is important to pay attention to those types of dreams. So just saying hi, there's some people joining, and I see that Jen was talking about the angel Gabriel coming to her in a dream. And he said he sat by a stream and talked with you. He could still remember the conversation. Yeah. And it was interesting too, as you see, we're very comforted, and at the time didn't even know who the Archangel Gabriel was. So yeah, so that is absolutely a dream where you slipped through into the realm of the gods, and it allows us the access to those divine beings. So yeah, very beautiful dream. So let's talk about dream symbology. Okay, so this is a passion of mine because, again, like I said, I was one of those people who always had the dream dictionaries. I still have some, and I find symbology very interesting. But I do think that it's important for us to consider our own personal symbology before handing our power or looking towards an outside authority. So our unconscious mind, like I mentioned, it is communicating through us through symbols. It cannot speak to us through words. The conscious mind cannot say, hey, you're having a conflict, an internal conflict with your dad from when you were 4. It is not going to ever say that to you. It is going to try to bring that through that filter of the ego, that wall. It's going to try to bring it through symbols. So we want to especially pay attention to the symbols in our dream. So you want to first start with a reality check, and you want to ask yourself, does anything in this dream remind me of waking life? Now, this could be colors in the dream. It could be clothing that you're wearing. It could be a person that's there. It could be like anything that's reminding you of real life is going to give you an anchor that is going to connect you to what that symbol might mean for you. So we don't want to immediately just go and look up the symbols. To me, this is like when you're trying to get good at reading tarot cards. You don't want to immediately just be going to the book, because what we end up doing is we basically surrender our own ability to have any insight. We surrender that to an outside authority. So I do think that the books that come with the tarot decks are great, but you should first try to look at the symbols on the card yourself. Close your eyes, see if you get any insight first before you go and look at those symbols. So same thing or before you go and look at that book. So the same thing with your dreams. You want to start to ask yourself some questions about the symbols before you immediately go and look them up. Because we have far more insight than we give ourselves credit for, but we can't get better at it. We can't get better at divination. We can't get better at interpreting our own dreams if we're immediately looking for answers from somebody else. So it is true that the collective unconscious is full of archetypes. It's a repository of symbols. And it's true that there are connections that we can make to that. But first, we want to explore what those symbols mean for us. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do you think the symbol means? So before you go and ask other people, say to yourself, what do I think that symbol means? You're probably going to know better than any of us. So you then can ask yourself, what kind of an emotion does it evoke? Do you feel neutral about it? Do you feel sad about it? Do you feel angry or mad? Or do you feel happy? Does it give you comfort? So ask yourself the emotional content of it, and then ask yourself, what does that symbol mean to you? Now, here's a tip that I think this is just such a fantastic tip and such a neat way to create a dream, your own dream dictionary of your own personal symbology. So many people know you can keep, like they'll tell you, if you want to remember your dreams, go ahead and keep a dream journal. And most of the time we're writing them down. And I have books and books of books. I started this when I was a teenager, so I have books of dream journals of my own. But if you were to start recording your dreams in, for example, a Google Doc or some kind of a document that is searchable, what you have essentially done is, over time, you're creating a dream dictionary of your own. Okay, so because what this means is, let's say you recorded a bunch of dreams down and you do this for a while, and then you have a dream that contains a dog in it. So rather than going immediately and Googling dogs and dreams or looking it up in a dream dictionary, you then can go to your electronic database and you can type in dog. And it's going to pull up all the dreams that you have ever had that had a dog in it. And through looking at that, you can eventually start to make connections between all of those dreams. And eventually, you will be able to figure out what the dog means to you, not to other people. So I love this idea. And if you're somebody like me who, when you wake up, maybe you don't necessarily, you've got the paper by your bed and you want to jot it down, you just want to write it down, that's totally fine. You can even speak it into a phone, but later I suggest that you go and you put it into, like I said, a Google Doc or any kind of searchable document, and you'll just kind of put the journal entry with the date. You could put a title of the dream. I love putting titles of the dreams, and then just kind of write down what you can remember and emotions that came up, and then kind of go on to the next day. And every day you sort of putting this in whenever you have dreams, and eventually you're going to have your own personal dream dictionary. So it is a pretty cool idea. So the other thing that you want to consider is, rather than just letting the dream kind of come and do nothing about it, consider doing something about the dream. So let me give you some ideas. I suggest that if there's a dream that comes to you and you really feel that it means something, so you're like, there's some symbology in it, there's something that I just can't escape this, I suggest trying to do something in waking life about that dream, because you may find that in the waking state, you'll start to make more connections through doing something. So this could be creating art. You could draw the symbols. You could collage. You could journal, like we said. You could dialogue with dream characters. This is pretty fun, where you go in, you kind of get into a light meditative state, and then you try to have a conversation with that character. So let's say a character shows up in the dream, and you can ask them in your waking state, who are you? What do you want? And then just let the first thoughts that come to you, let those be the answer. Just trust your own insight, because if you can't trust yourself, none of this stuff ever ends up working. So you just have to make that commitment. I'm going to trust this path that I'm on. I'm going to trust that I actually have insight, and I'm going to try to use it. So dialoguing with dream characters can be really great. Another technique that is fantastic to do after dream work, or do after a dream, especially if you want to learn more about it, is called dream reenactment. So here you bring an element of that dream into your waking life. So perhaps wear the color that you were wearing in the dream, or if there was a color in the dream that was like you saw a lot. Let's say there's a preponderance of a certain color. Wear that color. If there was a symbol, draw it on something. See if you can find it out in the real world, okay? Right? So if there's a bear in the dream, go out in the real world and use the power of synchronicity to draw you to other places where you see a symbol of a bear, and then think about what's going on in your mind when you see that symbol. So we are essentially trying to trigger something in us while we're in the waking state and can make the connections. We're trying to trigger that when we are out in the waking world, kind of looking for these synchronicities. Another thing that you can try is dream reentry. This is a shockingly easy technique that you can use. You will need a guide of some kind to do this. But I'm going to tell an example of my own dream. I had this dream that what always kind of troubled me. And so in this dream, I had a baby, and the baby was a few weeks old. And I was with my boyfriend and a friend, and we were at some kind of a lecture. And during this time, I had put the baby on the seat next to me. I turned to talk to someone. I turned back, and the baby was gone. So in the dream, we go and we rush and we go to the police station. They said, "Good luck. You're never you're never going to find that baby. Once people take them, they're gone." And so then we start driving around, and I can remember the landscape. And this is like, I call these dreamscapes. They're like landscapes that you return to over and over again in dreams. And when these things stick with you, there's something important in this dream. It didn't just fade away. And so we're driving through this landscape, and there is a bridge. And I keep hearing this crashing as we're getting closer and closer to this bridge. And I realize that the bridge is gone. So like there's the road here and there's a road on the other side, and the bridge is completely gone. And these cars are just driving over the bridge, and they're just crashing to the ground. And so I stopped the car before we crashed ourselves. And I remember in the dream, like kind of looking down, and I just saw this pile of cars. And then I woke up. And so this dream just stayed with me for years and years and years. And then I learned about dream reentry. So during a dream reentry session with a guide, I was able to go back into the dream. So you go back into the dream, and you kind of bring yourself to the very part where it stopped, and you continue. You just continue. So you do this in a light meditative state with this guide guiding you. And I remember that I looked down, and lo and behold, the baby was down there with the cars. So I climbed down, I got the baby, I brought the baby, gave the baby to my boyfriend who was standing up on the bridge. And then I decided, well, while I'm down here, I'm going to begin to explore. So I started walking through this area underneath the bridge, and all kinds of interesting things happened. And but it is just a very, very fascinating way to take a dream that just keeps stopping, especially a dream that you have currently that keeps stopping in the same place. You can go past that point in a light meditative state to gain insight into what would have happened. You can even use this technique for nightmares. So suppose that there's something that's always chasing you. Well, in this safety of this light meditative space, you can actually turn around and say, "Pause, stop," and get the thing to stop, and then look at it. Ask it, what are you here for? It's shockingly easy to do this. It sounds kind of crazy in myself. I didn't really believe it was possible until I was kind of inducted into the state and could do it. So something really, a really neat idea to try. And I will let you know that if you're interested in dream reentry, if you've got a dream that you really want to do this with, we are going to be doing this next month in our Shadow Seekers membership, which is about to open up for new members. So you might consider joining us if you're really interested in dreams. We're doing a whole dream module in June. So let's talk next about influencing dreams. So as witches, we actually have the potential to influence our dreams as well. So one thing you can do is you can set an intention, and you can write that question, place it under your pillow, and then repeat that question while you are falling asleep. That is one way that you can actually program a dream. And then what you want to do is when you wake up, just be aware that the answers may not come to you completely clearly. And just whatever comes to you when you wake up, if there's a thought in your head, if there's an emotion that you're feeling when you wake up, take that at its face value as being an answer, okay? So don't discount it, or because you didn't remember the dream. There will be an answer in the morning. It just may not be what you expect. And if you practice the technique over and over and over again, you actually get quite a bit better at it, and your unconscious mind is like, okay, I see the game we're playing. So it's a kind of a similar idea as when you can program yourself to receive synchronicities from outside. So suppose that you have a question And you want to do this in the waking state. Because personally, I think that synchronicities that are going on sometimes put us into kind of a waking dream state. So you say to yourself, I have this question and I am going to ask it right now. And I'm going to go outside and I'm going to walk around for the next hour or so. And I'm going to pay very special attention to the things that are around me because there's going to be an unusual thing that happens and that will be the answer to my question. So you can actually program yourself through your will to get answers this way. But again, it's a technique that you would need to practice more than once, whether you're doing it with the dreams or doing it in a waking state. You want to practice this technique more than one time so you get good at it. And just don't give up if the first time you feel like you don't really get much, or the second time, or the third time. Just keep at it, and you will gain. You can, and you will gain insight this way. So another thing that we can do to help influence our dreams is to work with certain stones, herbs, plant spirits. So valerian root is a very good herb that is excellent for dreams. It's excellent for sleep if you can tolerate it. Most people can. It's pretty easy herb to take. You take it usually internally, and you can get ground powder. You can make your own capsules, or you can just go to Whole Foods or Sprouts or any kind of natural store, and they will sell valerian capsules. Valerian can help you create some good vivid dreams. I think what actually is happening with the valerian is that valerian is a very good herb that helps to bring you down, brings your energy down so that you can sleep better. And when you can sleep better, you're going to enter your REM states in a much better way. I'm going to talk a little bit more about REM in a moment. But while you are in REM, you will be more likely to have those vivid dreams that you remember. So I think that's really the mechanism that valerian has. But there are also a lot of magical properties of valerian that I don't want to discount. So I just think overall it's a very good herb to try if you really want to enhance your dreams. Now, another herb to try is passion flower. This one will create a calmer dream state. So if you are somebody who is having a lot of disturbing, anxiety provoking dreams and they're not really giving you any answers. So sometimes our anxiety provoking dreams can actually give us insight, but if you feel I'm getting nothing from these dreams and I just need to calm down, passion flower is a good herb to try because it will calm the system. It's great for helping with people who have insomnia. It's very relaxing at night. You can take this as a tincture. That's usually how I see it, but I think you can also get it as ground herb, as powder in a capsule. So this is another good one, but very, very good for bringing you into a calm state of sleep that will actually probably calm down your dreams a little bit. Now, mugwort is an herb that is very good for increasing psychic dreams. It's usually best to not take it internally. If you've done it before and you have like an herbalist you work with, definitely I would want you to have an expert kind of helping you with mugwort, but you can absolutely use mugwort externally. And in fact, at Rose Mountain Herbs, you can get mugwort smudge sticks. So I think that is a great idea. You can smudge your bed with the mugwort smudge stick beforehand, and you can then place the stick once it's gone out. You could place it next to your bedside table so there's a bit of the aroma in the area, and then go to sleep. And mugwort can be very good for increasing psychic abilities and psychic dreaming. And then finally, let's see, is that the only herb here? Yeah. Clary sage is very good. I like clary sage as an essential oil. Clary sage is actually fantastic for balancing female hormones, but it's also very good for inducing vivid and often strange dreams. So if you want to go on a journey, try some clary sage. If you want to calm yourself down and not go on some crazy journey, go try your passion flower. So it's always important to look at the mechanism of the herb and then how it's going to affect the dream state, because we don't always want the same type of experience. Now, if you want to work with some stones, there are some great ones. We have amethyst, moonstone, celestite. A lot of the stones that are good for dreams are going to be good for the upper chakras, so third eye and crown. Celestite, the Herkimer diamond is a fantastic stone for dreams. Fluorite, and I actually like prehnite or prehnite. And this is actually called the stone of dreaming. So this is a great stone to wear to bed if you can find jewelry that is made out of it. The name is, it's spelled Prehnite. So you can actually can find some jewelry made out of it. I haven't seen any, so I think it's a little harder to find that, but I think you could find some. Or you can place it under your pillow or just have it near your bed. But a really great stone, and like I said, called the stone of dreaming. Now, if you work with deities, you can actually work with deities who are connected to dreams, like Morpheus, the Greek god of sleep and dreams. There is Mamu. She is a Mesopotamian goddess. She's the daughter of the sun god Utu, and she is considered a goddess of dreams. And then there's Mari. She's a Basque goddess who is a goddess of dreams and hopes. So if you work with deity, you might choose one of those. That list is not exhaustive, though. And I also say if you are somebody who does rituals or you go to rituals, I always tell people after my rituals, make sure you are paying attention to your dreams for the next couple of nights. Have paper next to the bed. Write things down in the morning, including how you feel, because you will often get insights after a ritual or after a magical working from your dream state. So let's talk about what happens if you are in a dream drought. Okay, so first of all, we all dream. So when people say I don't dream, that isn't true. We all dream. It's just some of us don't remember the dreams. And I myself will go through periods which I would call a dream drought. It just simply means not that I didn't dream, it means that I can't remember them. And there's a lot of factors that could contribute to why we might not remember them. So the first thing we want to do is if you're in a dream drought, you've got to do something. Okay, you got to change something if you want to remember your dreams again. So here are some ideas. So I think that, this is probably the number one idea that people are going to recommend if you're not remembering your dreams is to record or to keep a dream journal. So some people may say, well, why would I keep a dream journal if I'm not dreaming or I'm not remembering them? But what you want to do is you want to faithfully record something every morning. So record the feeling you have upon waking, because right before you wake up, you're often in an REM state anyway, which means that you were dreaming, it just didn't consolidate enough for you to remember it. So write down the feeling, because that feeling is probably connected to the content of the dream. You might also write down the first thing that you think about when you wake up, because again, that might not be just a random thought. It very well could be connected to whatever you were dreaming about. You also want to be kind to any snippets or wisps of anything that comes to you in the morning, because they can have meaning too. So it doesn't have to be like a full-fledged dream. If you can just remember the color red, be kind to those wisps, because they are actually the unconscious mind is trying to communicate with you. So you just need to pay attention to those things. So if you can faithfully and consistently write in your journal, you may find over time you actually start to remember larger portions of the dreams. Now, another thing you can try is don't immediately move when you get up. So one of the things that happens during dreams is when we are in the REM state, we are in a essentially paralyzed state. And the reason this is a biologically positive thing that happens, because if we were able to move during this time when we're dreaming, we could potentially hurt ourselves, could fall out of bed, all kinds of things could happen. So you are in this paralyzed state. And so if you can try to stay in that spot, actually, let me back up for a second. So in order to begin to move again, when you wake up, your body prior to waking up will start to release a chemical that breaks down the chemical that was keeping you paralyzed. Okay, so you start to begin to move around again. And so people who have sleep paralysis, all that really means is that the body, it didn't produce enough of the chemical that would break down the chemical that had you paralyzed. So if you are in sleep paralysis, you can always just try not to panic and try to move small parts, toes, fingers, things like that, because you're okay. It's just your brain, there's like a miscommunication and you don't have the right chemicals in your brain right now. But backing up and going back to, way to remember dreams is to stay in that state. So continue laying or lying down in your bed in exactly the state you were in when you woke up, and just stay there for a minute or two and just let things kind of drift in and out of your mind. And it's possible some wisps of dreams may enter through that way. Um, Now, the other thing you can try, and this I would just use a bit of caution with this technique, especially if you are somebody who suffers very terribly with sleep or insomnia. So just be very cautious with this next thing I'm going to say. But if you have some space where you don't really have to be up the next day or work or have to really do much of anything the next day, this is an experiment you can try. So the deal is that you will go into a REM state about every 90 minutes of sleep. And your first session of REM will be 10 minutes long, approximately 10 minutes long. And then you're going to go into a 90-minute part, which is not REM. And then the next REM space is going to be longer than 10 minutes. So the longer that you sleep, those REM sessions, they get longer and longer and longer. And so finally, that very one at the end before you wake up, that will be the longest one of all, which is why oftentimes that's the part that people are going to remember. Now, if you are having trouble remembering your dreams, one thing you can try is to wake up more often in the night. And the idea here is that you're trying to wake up right during or after an REM session. Okay? So, what I would suggest is set your watch or your phone for about 100 minutes or 90 minutes to 100 minutes from when you think you're going to fall asleep. So, if you get in bed at midnight and you think you're going to fall right asleep, okay, you're going to set your watch or your phone, you're going to set it for 100 minutes, 90 minutes later, okay? So, maybe like 1:30, 1:40. And you can then see what happens, because it's possible you'll wake yourself up during that REM state and you actually might be able to remember a dream that way. So again, I say use caution if you are, if you're in a bad state of insomnia or you're quite sleep deprived, you want to be careful with this little method. But the other thing that you can try is you can drink, people say drink 3 glasses of water right before you go to bed, because you are going to have your body is going to run through your body in about an hour and a half, and that's right when REM is going to start. So you're going to have to pee so bad that your body is going to wake you up to pee, and it's possible that you wake up during the REM state. So these are little tips that you can try. But again, please don't do this if you have like a big work day the next day or something you have to focus on, because this can disrupt your sleep for that first night, but it might help you remember your dreams. So the other thing you want to try is to have some good sleep hygiene. So make sure that your room is dark. You don't want to have that pineal gland activated because there's so much light in the room. Perhaps consider using an eye mask. Sleep at least 6 hours. The average person, they say, needs about 7 to 8 hours. Some people can get away with 5. Some people need more like 9 or 10 even when they're adults. So, but make sure you're sleeping at least 6 hours, because if you start to fall into a lot of sleep debt, then your dreams are going to be much more difficult when you have lack of sleep, because what happens is that when you finally do sleep, you sleep really hard. And when you're sleeping really hard like that, you're probably not going to remember dreams. So I know for myself, been working a lot and I have not been remembering. I had a period of time where I wasn't really remembering dreams, and that's when I was sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night. It just wasn't enough. But when I start to increase that and I really pay attention to my sleep hygiene, and I'm getting into bed, I'm making sure that I'm getting more like 7 hours of sleep, all of a sudden I'm remembering dreams. Okay. So the other thing I would say too is be careful about alcohol and caffeine right before bed, because the studies do show that they reduce our REM time. So if you want more dreams and you want to remember more dreams, we want to make sure that we have lengthened REM, not reduced REM. So it doesn't mean you can't drink or have caffeine, though be careful about caffeine before bed, especially if you're having trouble sleeping. But just be aware that those two substances will reduce your REM. Okay, so I am going to move now to the Q&A. So if anybody's here live and wants to ask any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat. I do have a question from Jen, and this is a really good one. So she asked, can you touch on the difference between familiars and spirit animals? Both what is the difference and how they affect and enhance our practices? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say about this is that there's some disagreement among people about how to use these words. And what the biggest disagreement I see is that people will call pretty much any animal, like any pet, they'll call it a familiar, and then other people will come in and correct them. And I'm somebody who I really feel like, I think it's important for us to research and understand words that we're using before we use them. But, I also don't feel that somebody needs to come in and correct us if we feel that if we know what the word means and we think we're using it properly. So as just a side note here. So let me tell you what I consider the difference between spirit animals and familiars. And this is probably the consensus on this is pretty good. So a spirit animal or a spirit guide is an animal that will oftentimes arrive to you, for you, in a dream, a meditation, or what I would call like a waking dream state. So you could be awake, but you're in sort of like in an alpha state. You might be quite relaxed. You might not even know it, but you're probably quite relaxed when the spirit animal or the spirit guide or the spirit animal or the animal guide comes to you. So these spirit animals, they may come to you to warn you, they may come to you to help you, they may simply come to you to just guide you. They are usually here with messages of some kind. And oftentimes they are a mentor from the spirit world who may choose to take the form of an animal. Now, usually they're going to contact you. It's not usually like you don't usually say the wolf is my spirit animal, and then I'm just going to go and contact the wolf. So usually, what happens with spirit guides or spirit animals is that they come to you, though you might have an affinity for a certain animal that will eventually kind of make itself known as being an animal guide or a spirit animal. So you do want to pay attention to repeated appearances of animals over and over and over and over again. That is a sign that they're trying to contact you if they're like always you know, in your environment. And you want to watch also for any synchronicities out in the outside world. So not just the physical animals. So like, for example, like I used a bear earlier. So if you see a bear when you're out on a hike or something, or you see a bear somewhere, pay attention to other things, like when you see a bear on a product or you see a bear symbol somewhere. So same goes for any type of spirit animal. And like I said, generally you don't choose the animals. Generally they will choose you. So the familiar, on the other hand, is this is a word that you'll probably hear a lot of people use the word spirit animal or animal guide. You'll hear that out in just the general population. But the word familiar is usually kind of confined to the world of witchcraft and shamanism. We don't really hear a lot of this word outside. Now, the word probably, I think the first use of the word comes from the Middle Ages of France, and when it was usually used to refer to some kind of a domesticated animal. It could be like a cow or a horse, dog, sheep. Sometimes animals that weren't, or cats, sometimes animals that weren't domesticated, like lizards or maybe like moths or birds, frogs, different things like that. And it was thought that there was a connection between the witch and this animal. So the familiar is usually a magical helper. When people say, "Oh, my cat is my familiar," well, it could be, but it doesn't always have to be the case, because not all pets are just simply familiar because they're pets. So the idea here is to see if you have an animal that comes to you when you are doing magical workings, when you are doing your work. Is there an animal that comes and is always there, like sitting at the side of the circle, or coming very interested in the stuff that you're doing? And that is a key, or a sign that it might be a familiar. they will often show up at the rituals or the magical workings and just really, really seem interested in what's going on. Now, the basic difference I would say between the animal guide and the spirit animal and the familiar is that the animal guide or spirit animal is like more of a messenger. They're coming here to be a guide, to teach lessons, to say, hey, pay attention to this, whereas the familiar is more of a helper. So that would be my explanation of the difference. Now, you asked what you could do, and I personally, so Ted Andrews is a great author, and he wrote this book called Animal Speak. I got this book like 20 years ago or something. This is a great book. He goes through. It's called The Spiritual and Magical Powers of Creatures Great and Small, and it has like all kinds of meditations in it. It goes through all different kinds of animals and what they can mean. And then he also wrote a companion book, which was the Animal Speak workbook. And this has a bunch of exercises and things that you can do, different medicine, owl and hawk medicine, I see as I'm opening it up. So I recommend Ted Andrews. I think he's a really great author. I just enjoyed those books so much. And so that would be a way to kind of follow up and just see if something from those books inspires you. All right. So Carla's here now. Yes, we are early today and we're about to finish up, but we're still got a little bit going here. I am going to the Cure concert tonight at the Hollywood Bowl, and so we have to get there sooner than later. So I had to do the show a little early tonight. But if anybody's got any questions, you can drop them in the chat because we're still here for a few more minutes. I'm just going to tell you while, in case people have some questions, I'm going to talk a little bit longer, tell you guys about some things that are coming up. So tomorrow night, 5:25, that's Thursday, 5:25 at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, you can join me for a free shadow work ritual to burn away fear and negative emotions. So this ritual is actually I shouldn't say one of, it is the first ritual that we did in our Shadow Seekers membership. And I love this ritual so much, and I've had great feedback from others about how much of a big change this ritual can make in people in such a short amount of time. So I have decided to open this up to a larger community. So it is a free ritual. You can invite friends. You will find the Zoom link below this video. You will also find it pinned to the top of the Body Mind Witchcraft group. And if you're on our mailing list, you'll get the Zoom link through your email as well. So it is just a really great ritual, and I hope you'll join us. We're going to be working with the goddess Kali, and we are going to do some movement work to really purge ourselves of some negative energy and negative emotions, and then we're going to be able to let go of some fears consequently because of that. And Kali is just a really great goddess because she's kind of a fearful goddess at times, and that's mostly because people misunderstand her. She represents the death of our ego and the ability to just combat our fears. So I really hope you can join us. And Carla said you want to invite your cousin. So you absolutely can do that. I'm going to put the link below, and all you have to do is give your cousin the link. Okay. So anybody can come to this, and after that, you can learn also our Shadow Seekers membership is going to be opening. It's going to be open from 5:26 to 6:02. So it's basically going to open up the day after that ritual, and we're going to be open for a week. We're taking in our next round of members. Again, like last time, we have a limited number of spots that we can take. So if you are not a member yet and you want to be one, think about joining us sooner than later before all of the spots are filled up, okay? So I just want to let you know then is that in our membership, like I mentioned, we're going to be working with dreams in the month of June. So I am going to be teaching all kinds of dream techniques, and we're going to do a ritual where I am going to guide you through a dream reentry sequence. So what this means is you will come into the ritual with us. You're going to have a dream kind of fragment that and then we're going to guide you into how you will continue to journey through that dream and see what happens on the other side. So it's a really exciting ritual. I'm super excited about June. And then Beth is going to join us. I think she's going to bring us a special workshop on fairy magic, and I think she's also going to teach us about some herbs that we can use during Dreamwork. So June is a really great month and a great time to join the membership. In July, we'll be working with the heart chakra. starting to balance the heart center, which is the bridge between our physical and our spiritual beings. So having this bridge really clear to blockages is important for our shadow work and important for us to elevate up into the higher spiritual realms. And then August, we're going to be doing some past life astrology. So we have a really exciting summer coming up. Great time to join the membership now if you're not already in it. So you can look for more information this week about what goes on in our membership. But we have live rituals workshops, we have office hours, we have a Facebook community that is just a fantastic group of people. So yeah, you'll learn more about the ritual. Learn more about the membership after tonight's or tomorrow night's ritual, if you're interested. Okay, and then you'll also see some posts circulating in the group telling you more about it. On Wednesday, 6/1, I'll be doing a special Ask Aislin. It is all Q&A. So I'm going to have there will be a post in the Body, Mind, Witchcraft Facebook group where people can drop questions about shadow work, energy work, anything they're interested in. And then I will just answer as many questions as I can during that hour. So that's 6/1, and we're back to our usual time of 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. And then on Wednesday, 6/8, I have a very special episode coming up, and that is on Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So now is a great time for shadow work. So whether you're going to do it on your own or you want to join a group like us, really consider really taking your shadow work, doing a deep dive into your shadow work now, because when Saturn goes retrograde, it's going to shake some stuff up. And if you are already doing your work, you're probably going to be just fine. But other people are going to be it's going to be a little chaotic. So I'm going to do a whole episode on Saturn retrograde in Pisces and explain how people could use shadow work during that time and just how we can get through it. In actually, I was going to say get through it in one piece. I'm not afraid of Saturn. Some people get a little afraid of Saturn and the retrograde and everything, but honestly, if you're doing your internal work, there's nothing to be afraid of. But that period lasts from 6/17 to 11/5 to all the way to November. So we're in it through the entire summer and most of the fall. So now's the time for shadow work, okay? All right, so if there are any other questions here, you can leave them. If I miss any, I'll go back through the feed later and answer anything that I missed. But I hope that I will see some of you tomorrow night for that shadow work ritual. And again, like I said, you'll find the link below the video. And I'm off to the cure now. So until next time, blessed.